How do our fabric and clothing choices impact our health? Thank you for joining me today for this very, very important conversation. Today, we're going to cover the top toxic fabrics to avoid, how they can negatively impact your health, what are the best fabrics to look for that support your health, how to find and identify quality clothing brands that respect your body and respect the earth, and some simple ways of how you can start to implement what we're talking about here without feeling like you have to throw away all your clothes right now. Let's jump in.
Hey, I'm Erin. I'm a mama, a health coach, a home herbalist, and an author. Welcome to my channel where we'll explore the realms of simple medicine making, earth-based living, health, and self-love. Hey friends, today we are talking with my good friend Fern, and we're gonna go into a topic that I'm excited to talk about, which is how our fabric choices and our clothing choices actually impact our health. I haven't really seen this conversation talked about that much, so I'm really excited to get into it with Fern. So, Fernie, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and some context so that people can understand why you're a good person to learn from on this topic?
So I'm a fashion professional with 15 years experience under my belt. I specialize in sustainability and 3D innovation. I've worked with brands like ModCloth and Prana, where I led award-winning sustainability initiatives. So my expertise really spans from garment creation to pioneering innovations in this space. And just to preface, I never wanted to be in the fashion industry growing up. I am a true environmentalist at heart. I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I stumbled across something in high school where I saw all the pollution that was happening and damaging the environment for sea creatures, and knowing that that's like such an important part of the ecosystem of even human life, that I was like, okay, I need to learn everything I can about the fashion industry and how to stop it. And so that's how I started on this journey, and here I am now, and really trying to make things better. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know that about you. So that's fun. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's an important thing to make people aware of too. And that's an entire other conversation that we could have. And maybe we'll dip into a little bit today. But I really want to talk about different fabrics that are being used out in the world. And I think, yeah, like we don't really think about that when we're buying clothes. I think the new kind of wave is maybe becoming aware of like, wearing organic cotton and how that's important and how there's a lot of pesticides sprayed on cotton and our skin, because we're wearing clothes that are on our skin, and our skin is our largest organ that absorbs whatever's on top of it. That's really important, and so we can talk about that too. But something that is just like the big elephant in the room is this widespread use of polyester and how it's just everywhere. I mean, literally anytime I check tags of things that I'm buying, it's like all polyester or it's partially polyester. Um, so I'd love for you to just speak on polyester just to, kick us off, and what you know about it, and yeah, just like educating people a little bit about why that's not really the best choice.
Yeah. So I have a huge disdain for polyester. I'll just preface with that. I could go on for days about it. But for this podcast, I'll shorten it to this. Polyester is really cheap to make. All the synthetic fibers are generally really inexpensive to manufacture, and it makes it inexpensive for fashion companies to purchase that fabric. It's like, it might be $1 a yard versus $10 a yard for a natural fiber. And that's exaggerating it a little bit, but just to give you guys an idea of the cost difference. And so when a company is looking into how do we make things within our budget, that's why they lean towards polyester. It's really cheap and easy and quick. Um, it really shortens the entire process of textiles because it's kind of like Play-Doh. They're like taking this mold of a polymer and putting it into a machine, and it's pulling out fibers like Play-Doh versus growing a plant or raising an animal and then utilizing that. So the process is a lot quicker as well. In terms of polyester, and it's not just polyester, I'll actually jump a little bit further and say, polyester, acrylic, nylon, viscose, rayon, which includes bamboo, and I'll talk about that if you would like me to expand. Those all use highly toxic chemicals in their process to make, and those toxic chemicals are touching your skin as you wear it. They don't wash out. Um, I think over time it will wash out some of it, but not to the extent that you'd want it to. Um, and the reason they use these toxic chemicals in those polymers for those fibers is because it helps it last longer. It helps the bond with the fake fiber, synthetic fiber that they're making. Some of those are formaldehyde, TFCs, BPAs. Everyone's worried about BPA and their food and eating utensils, but what about the BPA that's on your skin every day when you're wearing polyester? And then some of them also can have phthalates in them, which we're now understanding are hormone disruptors. So, it's a lot of things that we really need to focus on, and there needs to be a lot more research in the textile sector to help get this word out to people.
Oh man, I thank you so much for sharing about some of the other fabrics too. I do want to go back to polyester really quick. So, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that polyester is a form of plastic. Is that
Yes.
accurate? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's all this awareness about not, buying plastic and not like having our food stored in plastic. And, that's all well and good, but also most people aren't aware that they're wearing plastic. So is that any better or is that actually worse than like putting your food in it? You have it literally against your skin. So just making people aware that polyester is plastic. It's a fabric form of plastic, right?
Yes, it is. And so is acrylic.
Mm.
And you could even say like nylon to a certain degree. It's a different type of polymer. So I wouldn't quite say it's plastic, but if we're looking at the bigger picture, polyester, acrylic, and nylon, I would lump together in that same plastic fabric. And polyester is really wild too. It absorbs oil, which is a weird thing to have on your skin because it's absorbing the oil from your skin. It's going to dry your skin out, and then it's going to also absorb the dead skin cells with that, and it never leaves the fabric.
Ew.
Yeah. So imagine like a lot of sportswear and athleisure have polyester because it's like quick drying. But imagine trying to wash out that like bacteria from inside the fiber. It's like nearly impossible.
Oh, that's gross. Yeah, things like Lululemon, right? Like I think their yoga pants are polyester. I've also heard that like Nike, for example, uses, I think almost, I don't know if it's 100%, but I heard they're the number one clothing brand in the world and they use at least mostly polyester. So it's interesting that these sports brands are using polyester when it's actually probably the worst thing that you could use for like athletic gear, and what you'd really want to be using is something that's a lot more breathable.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is in sportswear, you know, the idea is it's created for an athlete doing athletic things. And so these fibers that are made out of this plastic material actually have benefits for an athlete in the sense of range of movement. It's not restricting, helping with their body temperature in certain activities that they're doing. And so it helps them be a little bit better as an athlete. This movement of athleisure, wearing yoga pants that are made out of polyester and just lounging around the house is kind of pushing that to a new level where now we're seeing the use of this material that is beyond its actual intention. I like to always think that things in moderation are not so bad, even if it's bad for you, but it's when we're using it every day and that was never intended to be used every day like that, now it's really dangerous for us.
Yeah, and we're not just wearing it for like a 30-minute or a 1 hour workout, we're wearing it all day long.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's an interesting point too. And I also, the other thing I wanted to say about polyester is that I've noticed that it shows up in a lot of like blankets and robes because it's often like very soft. And so I think a lot of people like it because they're like, oh, this is soft. It feels so good on my body. We've gone into this movement of checking the labels of our food. Now it's time to go into the movement of checking the labels of our clothing and really realizing that this is another aspect that affects our health too. So check if you find like a fabric or something that you love because it's that really fuzzy, like almost velvety soft material, be aware that it's probably polyester and check your tags. So I want to move into, I have some other questions, but I wanted to just kind of circle back and sum up that some of the ways that these toxic fabrics can impact our health is, I know you mentioned like hormone disruption. Um, can we just like give a little brief list of some other ones too, just to sum that up?
Yeah, so formaldehyde, there's notices on like furniture and other products that are not clothing, because there's government regulation on them. And they have to state that it, may cause cancers because there are studies that show that they cause different types of cancers. They can cause different types of illnesses. PFCs and BPAs are known to cause all kinds of skin issues. Inhaled, they can cause lung issues, all of these related to cancers. And so it's been fascinating to see this surge of cancer popping up among populations around the world and the use of these fibers jumping up as well, and there being minimal regulation on these fibers.
Mm. Oh, okay. Yeah, and those are pretty big things, like obviously cancer, lung issues, skin issues, hormone issues. So yeah, just to highlight, like if you're here and you're like, whatever, but like these are big issues because again, our breathing and our skin, like this stuff's just going right into the body and wreaking havoc, or it can. So thank you for that. So I'd love to talk about what are some fabrics that are better choices for the environment and for our skin. Can you highlight some that you really recommend?
Yeah, so I absolutely love linen, wool, silk. Huge fan of hemp. It doesn't get enough credit for what it is as a fabric. I think everyone initially thinks of this like scratchy, burlappy type
Mm.
material, but hemp blended with any of the other fabrics I just mentioned is amazing, and it's very similar in properties to linen. So I love it. And then organic cotton, if you can find it made and farmed in the US or in Europe. Outside of that, the regulations are a little bit kind of all over the place. So it might not be as organic as you'd like it to be.
Maybe we can go actually into some brands that you recommend because I know people are going to be like, okay, well, where do I find this stuff? And is it like super duper expensive? So, do you have some brands that you can recommend for people that would be a great place to start?
Kind of. So I've been racking my brain about this question since you sent it because it's really complicated. There's not one brand out there that only sells natural fibers. They send these different blends, and maybe, all these other layers of complexities get into it where maybe there's slave labor, but it's a good fabric, or, all these things. And ultimately, what I think is the best way to sort this out, and really the easiest way to sort this out, is there's an app. It's called Good on You. It's an app on the App Store. It rates ethical clothing brands, and brands that are not ethical, and it gives them a rating on all of these things. So you can, filter for natural fibers, and then it'll also score those brands that sell natural fiber clothing on, their social aspect, like how well are they supporting the workers and making sure that people are safe, and the chemical use and recycling and all that stuff. So I found that that's what I use when I go to shop anywhere. I check that app first. I don't trust companies and what they tell me about their brand anymore. I've just learned over time that too many companies are quick to jump into using a word in marketing, and there's no regulations right now on false advertising anymore, so they can say whatever they want, um, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of like when food packaging says natural on it, and you're like, oh,
Right.
okay, that doesn't mean anything.
My
Um,
broccoli should be natural because it's a plant, you know?
or like greenwashing. I think I don't know if there's this term in like fashion, but there's this term in greenwashing where, companies will make their packaging green and have the words natural and, different things so that it looks like they're a company that actually, has this as a value, but it's just literally to make you think that. So that's cool. So Good on You is the app that people should check out. Cool. Um, I want to jump into something that's a little bit woo-woo, but I think is really interesting because I'm into energy and vibration, and I know you are too, is fabric vibrations. And I saw a TikTok um a while ago about talking about the vibrations of fabric. And I don't remember the actual vibration numbers, but they were saying, the human body vibrates at this level. And then there's certain fabrics that vibrate higher than that will actually bring up your frequency. And then there's fabrics like polyester was specifically what this TikTok was talking about, was saying it has like a super low vibration and it actually brings your energy down. So I think this is a really interesting concept, just realizing that, like, yes, there's implications as far as our physical, biological health, but also what about like things like mood? If I'm wearing a fabric that's pulling down my vibration really low, that could be something that's creating depression or just like feeling shitty about life, whatever it is. So I think this is something that's interesting to talk about, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about this topic because we are at the forefront of pioneering what this means. There's one study that was done on this. Um, and there's one research paper from a scientist who studied this and did the research. And I have to say, it's very fascinating. Um, I will say that, okay, so linen, highest vibration. It says silk is kind of a neutral vibration, wool's a little bit higher, but then it was saying stuff like, when they combine, you can get different variances of a blend of these fabrics of that vibration being lower than the vibration number of linen. Like for example, linen is like 5,000 and silk would be like, I don't know, like 50. And so when you blend them, it brings linen down maybe like 500 points rather than just the 50, which I'm finding interesting because when the research is done and the way that they talk about the methods they use, they're capturing the standalone fabric vibration and the standalone human body vibration. But each of these materials, even though their vibration is a different number value, they have a different purpose for the human body. So, like linen has research on it talking about how it can help cell regeneration, which is why, like, old in the olden days, it was used for all of the medical bandaging.
Oh,
And it can actually help you heal faster because of the way that it like absorbs and supports the body healing, which is really cool.
cool.
Silk, for instance, might not have those healing properties, but silk is used incredibly across the board in beauty. It's great for pillowcases, your hair, reduces wrinkles, anti-aging. It's got all these other properties that go with it. So there's, like I said, there's only one research on the vibration, but I'm curious to see, and I'm excited to see more research coming out on more properties of these fabrics in the different uses that come out with it. But right now, we can absolutely, just from this one research paper, speculate that wearing linen, um, and there's another one on hemp that's hemp and linen have very equal vibrations. So those are my two favorite. um, that it's good for your body to wear it and that it can help your mood, help your energy, everything.
Cool. That's really interesting. I love how there's like different healing properties similar to like herbs. I mean, it makes sense if there's these natural fibers, just like a plant out in nature, it would have certain property, like you would have chamomile for your digestion or whatever it is. So that's really cool. One place that I have seen recently that has really great prices on, I think it's European linen, is Quince. They also
Mm.
have organic cotton and they have silk. I don't know about wool, but those three. I'm curious if you know about them or if you have any opinions about them because they're sort of a new brand that I recently discovered.
Yeah, so they're really popular on social media, and I'm a little skeptical on their processes. I love that they have a budget price for these materials, but I question how are they getting the price that low? Um, you know, are they dumping chemicals for dyeing into waterways? They're not properly cleaning it. They're not getting taxed on it. What is going on? Are the workers working for extremely unlivable wages? What's going on? And on the flip side of that, um, so I suggest, I haven't looked it up myself, but just typing in that brand and saying good on you app score and seeing what they say.
Yeah, because they have, I mean, their properties, I mean, their prices are way lower than, other brands that are selling the same type of thing. Even they have cashmere. What do you think of cashmere, by the way? Is that a natural fabric?
I mean, it is. It's an animal fiber.
Yeah.
Um, I would say cashmere is it's like a softer, almost like the under part of like a down version of wool.
Hmm.
Um, so whatever wool would score on that vibration level, I'm sure cashmere would be similar.
Hmm. Let's say you're really budget conscious and you don't have money to go, or you don't want to allocate your money to go buy a whole new wardrobe. I wanted to just talk briefly about the importance of wearing undergarments that are organic cotton or whatever. I mean, I don't think people sell like
Wool.
and wool undies. So for me, I go for organic cotton, but I just wanted to highlight too that if, maybe you just want to start slowly or you kind of want to think about like what is the most important place to start, that could be a good place because you're thinking about like your underwear is right up against your yoni or right up against your breasts, right up against your lymph nodes. This could be a great place to start, is just kind of looking at your underwear. Are they polyester? I've heard that can cause, obviously it can because we're talking about that, but I've heard um, people, really talking about, especially if they're trying to get pregnant and they're having issues with fertility or they're just really conscious of their womb health or their hormones. Um, yeah, I would recommend looking into getting yourself some organic cotton um, underwear, bras, things like that. Curious if you have any thoughts on that.
100%, yes. Um, you know, there's a lot of brands that have organic cotton underwear and bras. There's another handful of companies that have silk underwear and bras. And then hemp is a new one that's starting to creep up. And if you can find, there's one brand called Wama that I'm aware of, WAMA. They have hemp underwear, bras, socks, t-shirts, it kind of expands. And that's the closest we can get to linen for undergarments right now. So I highly suggest that. They're pretty inexpensive in comparison to buying like a full hemp or linen garment, but could start there. Something else that I think is really fun that, if anybody is like exploring being a sewist or hobby sewer, on my blog, I'm actually launching this week. It's a pattern to cut up your old t-shirts into underwear and how to sew that. And then I'm going to do another one on bras. So, if you buy a shirt for yourself in these great fabrics, that when it starts to wear out or get holes in it or becomes older, you can turn it into underwear and undergarments for yourself later. So,
Oh, that's awesome. I love
yeah,
it. Also, just because my brain took me here, for women, really make sure that you're using organic cotton if you use tampons and pads, because these are also things that you're putting up in your body. And this is not clothing, but it is fabric. And a lot of the cotton, I don't even know what other fabrics are in it. Maybe you know and can speak to that, but cotton is one of the most highly sprayed with pesticides. And so if you're using cotton pads or tampons that actually probably have other things like polyester in them. There's that, but also you're putting that up in your body or up against your yoni. And so that is another place where it's really important that you're using clean, non-toxic, you're getting non-toxic cotton. So I really recommend Rael, it's Rael. I think there's another one called Cora that starts with Cora. There's some other brands that have organic cotton, menstrual products. That's another thing to think about too.
Yeah. So most tampons are made from cotton, rayon, and a blend. Sometimes there's a blend of polyester in there. You can know this because if you go home, take out a package of a tampon that you might already have, light it on fire, see what happens. If it melts, not cotton. If it
God.
disappears and turns into ash, cotton. So if you see any colors in the flame, there's other chemicals mixed into it. It's yeah.
Yeah,
Scary.
no joke. You don't want to be putting that stuff up in your yoni.
No way. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about today that you feel like is important for people to know about?
Yeah. So with synthetic fibers, there's three that kind of slide under the radar that and they slide under the radar because they're really on the line of being okay versus not. But there's a version that is okay, and I want to talk about that. So viscose, rayon, and bamboo, I
Mm,
would say, are the bad guys, which is surprising for bamboo, right? Because it talks about renewable fiber, all of this. Um, but those all use sodium hydroxide to bond the fibers, and then it gets dumped into the environment. So it doesn't matter if bamboo is quickly to grow as a replacement for traditional viscose and rayon, which chop down the forest to make. It's made from wood pulp. Um, it's still not safe with the chemicals that are used in its production, but there is a fiber that replaces those three, and it feels the same. It literally is the same fabric. It's called Tencel, and Tencel is the good version of all of those. And the reason it's a branded name called Tencel, it is a closed loop chemical system, so they prevent the environmental damage, they prevent harm to any of the workers using it, and they filter and recycle and properly dispose of those chemicals so that it doesn't have effects beyond its manufacturing. So if you're leaning towards staying away from polyester, acrylic, nylon, but you're like, but rayon is still more affordable, find Tencel. Tencel is still affordable, but at least they are closing that loop on the chemical system, and it's not just being tossed out for someone else to deal with later, like the
mm,
environment.
mm. Thank you for touching on that. That was actually on my questions and I just skipped over it now. But the reason I asked is because that brand Quince that I mentioned has a lot of the Tencel and I've never seen that before. So maybe it's more up and coming and we'll start to see more companies using that. But that's good to know that it's a good alternative.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up?
I think that's it. But, if any of you podcast listeners or watchers have questions, you can reach out to me directly on my website. I have a contact form. Please reach out. It's fernlippert.com. And I'd be happy to answer any of your questions on this topic.
Awesome. And maybe if you create a blog post or whatever resource, we will link that in the information, the show notes or the YouTube description below in case you want a list of some of these fabrics. And just so you can get access to Fern's blog as well. So yeah, I'll put the resources that we talked about today down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this inspired you to just take a little bit more notice of what it is that you're wearing and putting on your skin. And even if you just start really simple with one thing, like, overhauling your undergarments or your menstrual products or whatever it is, just to become aware of these things, I think is so important. Not to say you have to go out and throw out all your clothes tomorrow, but at least you become aware of what you're putting on your body. And if you are having some of the health issues that we mentioned, this could be a great place to start, especially if, you're having skin issues or any of the things that we mentioned, this could be a natural place to get started. Oh, the other thing, sheets, right? You're laying on your sheets all night long, right? So getting yourself some good quality organic cotton or any of the other fabrics that we mentioned, sheets. Just thinking about what is it that's touching my body all day long. So yeah, that's another thing to throw out there too. So
On that same topic, I'll add, sometimes it's hard when you look at natural fibers and how expensive they can be, but you have to think of like the overall cost over time. If you're sick, if you're having skin issues, how many doctor visits are you doing? How many prescription things are you putting on your skin and your body or need, to solve this? How many different products are you buying to solve these skin issues when it could be as simple as spending a little bit more on your sheets, on your towels, whatever it might be, and then you don't have that issue anymore.
oh, I do have a question for you about something that I read about organic versus non-organic cotton, and I'm curious if you can clear this up for me. I forget where I saw it, but somebody was saying that if you take or non-organic, just regular cotton, and you put it out in the sun, that the sun will actually like kill off. I don't know if that's the correct wording, but it will like burn off the any pesticides or anything that is still lingering in the fabric. Do you know if that's true or not?
I I think it'll depend on what type of pesticides they need to use. There's a larger push to get away from traditional pesticides and using more enzyme type pesticides. So in those cases, putting that out in the sun will help, disperse the enzymes and it'll be free from the fiber. But the other ones have polymers mixed in, so plastics kind of mixed in, so they kind of meld into the fiber.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, and there's maybe another option for somebody who's not really ready to throw out all their clothes yet. If you have cotton clothes that maybe aren't organic, maybe put them out in the sun. I don't know. Maybe our ancestors knew what was up. I mean, obviously they didn't know what was up, right? So, yeah, cool. Thanks for answering that. And thank you so much for taking your time to share your wisdom with us. I really appreciate it. I know this is a super important conversation that most people haven't really heard about. So, I appreciate you taking your time to share with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. And good luck, everyone. Keep your hopes up.
All right. Bye bye.
All right, bye.